I'd like to call this meeting of the New Britain Board of Education to order. The time is 6:02. And I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Rivera, can you please start us off?
Yes, ma'am. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Edwards, can we do a roll call, please?
President Diana Reyes.
Here.
Vice President Barbara Marino.
She's excused.
Secretary Amy Buzworski. Here. Anthony Kane.
Oh, he's excused as well, sorry.
Miss Annie Parker.
Here.
Miss Hannah Driscoll.
Here.
Miss Joan Pina.
Here.
Mr. Richard Reyes.
Here.
Mr. Jose Rivera.
Here.
And Miss Tina Santin.
Right here. We'd like to take a moment of meditation, please. Thank you. And we do not have anyone that's signed up for public participation, but is there anyone who'd like to address the board? Anyone who'd like to address the board? Thank you. And for reports, we will start with our superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, everybody who's here tonight. First, thank you in advance. I'm anticipating a little bit of a longer meeting tonight. Thanks to the weather of early last week, we weren't able to have our committee reports, so that's why you'll see, excuse me, a longer new business. I don't think there's anything in particular controversial, but there will be a number of new business items for us to work through. I want to say thank you to everyone who's come out so far to our work to get people to come out and support our budget. As the board is aware, we've been putting in a lot of work to build up advocacy for our budget. Thus far, we've had a public forum that was approximately a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. I presented to the Superintendent's Advisory Council. I presented to our local employers at the high school. Dr. Velasquez and I had a productive meeting with our 5 state legislative delegates on Friday. Thank you to those 5 people for altogether making time for us on a Friday afternoon. And I've just come from 2 separate employee forums. If my voice is a little hoarse, it's because I was speaking for 2 hours straight, thinking to the employees who came out to 2 separate sessions, one kind of for the earlier schools and one for the later schools. I hope that we'll have a good turnout for our upcoming kind of redo of the budget forum, but this time in Spanish. For those of us at home who prefer to communicate in Spanish, I hope you'll come out to the Smalley Elementary School Media Center on Thursday at 6 p.m. And I want to say also thank you in advance. I've got these planned, but they've not yet happened. I do intend to meet with each and every of our PTOs and PTAs across the district, talk to them about the importance of budget advocacy. So thank you in advance for that. As always, you've got an advanced copy of our district dispatch in front of you. Perhaps an especially beautiful one this time because it features some of our amazing student artists.
Wow.
Really, really impressive work that you see here. Before we get to the art, I just want to feature what you'll find on page 1. You'll see there a photo of one of our previous student board members talking about a path forward in New Britain High School. Again, for those who are watching at home, I hope we have a very strong turnout tomorrow night at New Britain High School, where we feature all of the really wonderful and really quite unique offerings that happen at New Britain High School. Fine arts, performing arts, career academies, really unlike any other in the region for finding all of that under one roof at a comprehensive high school. As I said to the parents last year when I spoke briefly, yes, you can find a Connecticut technical high school where they can go to the auto shop. And you can find perhaps a magnet school where they can learn medical sciences. But kids change their mind. I call it part of the teenager's job description is to change their mind. And we're really, really lucky to have all of that under one roof. So kids truly can dabble and experiment in just the way that teenagers should. So I hope that our 8th grade families from all of our schools that have 8th grade will come out and just see just exactly how amazing of a school the New Britain High School is. That's what you'll find on page 1. Following that really, really impressive artwork from some of our really top art scholars who've been recognized at the state level. Such an amazing story with a really nice profile of each of the 4 of them on page 4 and 5. The 8th grade showcase, which I just mentioned, is on page 6. My explanation of our budget needs, you'll find that starts on page 7 with a lot of the information that this board has already heard. And again, for the folks in the audience and on TV who are watching this, right, because of the budget constraints that we're predicting for next year, we're really putting extra effort into helping people advocate for the kids of New Britain. So at our regular website, csdenb.org/budget advocacy, you can find all of this. So this is, here it's presented as 2 pages, but it's actually 2 sides of 1 piece of paper, just to take people through kind of step by step in the timeline of how to advocate locally with our local elected officials and our state elected officials. Email addresses and contact information are all available for these people at that website. Our state delegation, key leaders at the State Department, such as Appropriations Committee and Education Committee. And there are even 2 separate sample letters to elected officials that people, if they've never written to an elected official before, there's 2 sample letters on that webpage that they can download and customize and then send off should they wish. So we know that we have a big ask this year. 14.8% is not unprecedented in the state, but it's certainly unprecedented in my 11 years as a superintendent. And we know, as the board has heard, that's just what it takes to not have to cut services. So I want to thank everybody on the team who's supporting my efforts in this way. We're just going to keep fighting and keep advocating for what the kids of New Britain need. And then finally, as Ms. Murphy will make her way to the podium to talk to you tonight. Do you have right? So as she comes up, I'll just finish out the rest of the dispatch. As always, we finish up with some really nice stories and photos about our kids. And then, actually, Ms. Langer is here. The calendar that's at the back of the dispatch, has that been updated for the snow days yet?
I don't believe so, but
Okay.
I'll make sure that it gets updated before the dispatch goes out to families.
Well, we'll get that, and also on our
Yes.
website.
Yes.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So as the board had a lovely sampling of the actual food that our kids are offered each day tonight, and it's not a bad night to have to go into executive session for Attorney Ritter and Attorney Murphy, who are here with us tonight. We're going to get to go back there and enjoy some of the sampling. I thought as a very brief part of the superintendent's report tonight, we'd have Ms. Murphy just give the board an update on what exactly are the foods that we offer to our kids.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, board members, for having me. So a little bit of what you ate tonight are some samples of things that are actually on our school menus. The Asian dumplings with the fried rice and edamame has been on our menu at our middle schools and high school, and we are introducing it to our elementary students this month. We also had some pulled pork sliders that were on our middle and high school menu, and we're also introducing homemade meatloaf to our high school students on the menu this month. So you were able to sample some of those tonight, so I hope you enjoyed those.
So Ms. Murphy, homemade is a word that gets thrown around. When you say homemade, what do you mean?
It is made from scratch from our chefs right in the kitchen. We have many chefs that work within our district working hard to develop recipes. We like to take recipes. We talk with the students about what they eat when they're out in the restaurants. And I explain to them the regulations that we have to follow. We might not be able to make it exactly the same as what is in a restaurant, but we have chefs within the district that start to formulate the recipes to try and get it as close as possible to what the kids eat at home and what they're seeing out in restaurants as well. So a little bit about our farm to lunch tray, I like to call it. Back in November, I had mentioned to you that we were going to be purchasing some cranberries. So we did purchase 400 pounds of cranberries from the only Connecticut cranberry bog out in Killingly. And we processed 400 pounds of cranberries into cranberry sauce and offered it to all of our students that received lunch in November when we had our Thanksgiving feast. We also did a lesson with with 3 classes at advanced school. We talked a little bit about, I mentioned to them how cranberries are grown, how they're harvested, and then I did a taste testing of different forms of cranberries. So first they tasted a straight cranberry, which their faces were hysterical, very tart, their expressions. Then they tasted a craisin and thought it tasted a little bit sweeter, like candy almost. Then they tried it as cranberry juice. While this was happening, one of our district chefs was in front of them actually preparing cranberry sauce for all of the kindergarten classes that they were going to have with their Thanksgiving feast the next day. So they were able to sample all the cranberries in 4 different forms and learn a little bit about where it comes from. It just doesn't come from the grocery store, and how they could make it themselves. We sent a recipe home with them so that if their families wanted to try it at home, they could try it. Some exciting news about Farm to School is some funds that our district is receiving. Over the past year, we received $52,000 for local purchasing of Connecticut-grown farm products. We purchased $52,000 and the federal government reimbursed all $52,000 to the school district for purchasing Connecticut-grown. Some of the farms we used were Carabin Farm right in Southington. We also use a hydroponic lettuce farm in Torrington. Apples from Rogers Orchard as well. We are expected to receive more federal funding. They just have not told us yet how much additional funding we will be getting for this year as well. There is state funding that is also available to our school district, $16,000 that we will be receiving. We will receive 50% reimbursement for any Connecticut-grown produce that we receive into our school district for our school meals. An additional 33% reimbursement if it's regionally grown in New England. I've been holding student advisory meetings all throughout the year. Some things that came up, which I found interesting with our elementary students, we've always had pizza on Fridays. And some of the students said, we love having pizza every week, but can we try it maybe not on a Friday? So starting in February, we do have pizza every week for our elementary students, but one week it's on a Friday, one week it's on a Thursday, and then back to a Friday, and then maybe a Wednesday. So we'll switch it up a little bit and see how the kids like it. Also at DeLoretto School, some of the feedback that we got is this is a K through 8 school, and some of the meal options the middle schoolers felt was not geared towards them. So we looked at the lunch menu and the lunch waves and saw that all the middle schoolers eat towards the end, have the last lunch wave. So we decided to try and align the middle school DeLoretto menu on Fridays for this month with what's being served at Pulaski School and at Slade School. So some things like a chicken wing bar and baked potato bar. We last week, the week before, had our highest meal counts for middle schoolers at DeLoretto School when it was, I do believe, the baked potato bar. So we are looking to continue to do that in the upcoming months as well. Some other feedback we received from our student advisory meetings where they were looking for more hot breakfast item choices during breakfast time. So we are looking at developing recipes for breakfast sandwiches or possibly like an empanada or breakfast burritos at our K through 8 schools. Some of the newer items I mentioned to you before, you guys got a chance to taste test, but we also introduced charcuterie boxes, and in those boxes there's meat, cheese, vegetables, fruit, and like crackers or rolls, just like you would see when you go very commonly at home parties or out in restaurants where it's a little sampling. It has been very well received, especially at our middle schools. We also brought in hummus boxes. We're introducing this at our high school. It's some hummus as their protein, then a variety of vegetables and tortilla chips to balance off the meal.
So, Ms. Murphy, rough guess, how many middle school kids in Connecticut get charcuterie for lunch?
I don't think any. I think we
Except
are the
ours.
first ones. And it has been very, very well received. At Slade, we were averaging 60 charcuterie boxes a day, which is a lot considering they have so many meal choices available. The students also asked, especially the De Loretto students, asked to have Belgian waffles not just at lunchtime, but also to have it at breakfast. We were able to start serving them this past month, Belgian waffle at breakfast time. And new coming this month is a Jamaican beef patty, which several of our students across the district have asked for. So we're going to be introducing it at our middle school and high school first, see how it's received, and then look to bring it down to our elementary school menu. So we're also working on communications to our family and our students. We want them to have a full meal tray, and part of it is our campaign is full tray to fuel your day. So making sure that you fill all your compartments on your tray. There's 5 meal components, and we want them to take everything on their meal tray. We're also working on a campaign called Take 3 or Pick 3, which will help families with supplementing meals from home. So if a child brings a meal from home, maybe just a sandwich or something left over from the night before, they can go up to the lunch line and pick 3 things. They could take a fruit, a vegetable, and a milk, and that is considered a reimbursable meal. And that'll help families supplement what they're sending in with their children from home. So they can get the fresh fruit and the fresh vegetables, and they don't have to worry about keeping milk cold or drink cold in their lunch box. They can grab ice cold milk right from the coolers with their lunch. We are also working on updating our website, making sure that we have all the menus on there, the nutritional information, the allergies, also making sure that we're in compliance with state and federal regulations on our website, and also a nutrition newsletter for families to look at. So not only do we just do school meals, we also do things beyond the classroom. We do catering. So not just catering for the school district either. We also do catering for outside customers, anybody that's renting any areas in our school district. They also are ordering food from their cafeteria. We have a very extensive catering menu that Whitson's offers that helps to bring in revenue to the school district as well. And some community impact that has been happening within just food service. Whitson's did a coat drive back in November and December, and they collected 156 new or gently used coats, and they were donated to the New Britain Community Services Department. And then tomorrow I was asked to do a presentation to the New Britain Hunger Action Team on our meals program, how we do meals, and also summer meal offerings that we do. When school is closed, we still serve meals during the summertime for our students. And that is everything that is happening in our food service department. Does anybody have any questions?
I have one.
Yes.
For your catering. What? But the catering, so you just call the high school and that's where you cap, or how do you?
You would call the food services department. There's a telephone number, or you can contact me on our website where you could reach out for catering services. Yes.
Can you tell me about the preschool menus?
So the preschool menu at Roosevelt, I worked with the teachers last year, towards the end of the year, and the principal on things that the students like and do not like. So we put together a 5-week cycle menu and came up with things that we know they will eat. We also introduced a couple of new things. So the first picture that was on the slide was one of our Roosevelt students that was enjoying the little mini pancakes. Every once in a while we put a little new treat on the menu for them, and that was something that was new that the principal sent me a picture of, saying how much the students really enjoyed little mini pancakes for breakfast, a nice hot breakfast item. So I do work with the principal and the teachers there on what they see the students are eating or not eating, and we change up the menu for them based on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
And I guess only somewhat related to the topic of food, I wanted to share earlier, because the board soon will be having a special meeting where we talk about our facilities, first in Jefferson, but also all of our facilities. So as I've said to you in my weekly update email, I've begun my tradition of having lunch with kids around the district. So the two I've had so far have been kind of our alternative placements. First was the Brown Springer expulsion site. Second was Satellite Cruise Academy. So obviously the expulsion site is a place for kids who've made some serious errors. And the Satellite Careers Academy is a place for kids for whom the large high school wasn't working for one reason or another. And what was striking to me and really heartwarming, by the way, the pizza is just like, you know, like the alcohol at an adult party. It just loosens them up and gets them talking. It was heartwarming that in both cases, in multiple ways, multiple kids said, "This school changed my life."
Wow. Oh, wow.
And of a couple of kids at the expulsion site, that was a direct quote. These are kids, again, who've made a grave error, grave enough to qualify for expulsion under state law and board policy. And they were almost thankful for the opportunity to get on a different path.
Mhm.
Right? So one of the things we're going to talk about when we start talking about facilities will be, do we want to have more alternatives or different kinds of alternatives across the district? How do you want to use our 20 buildings across 16 sites for the kids of New Britain? And just coincidentally, those were the first two. We don't go in any particular order. But in both cases, these kids were reflective, understood maybe why the past hadn't gone the best for them, and had a plan. And so it just dawned on me that as we're about to have a special meeting in a week from tonight, I think, that was some really critical information that perhaps the board wants to think more about, and I'm happy to have that conversation. So with that, that concludes the superintendent's report for tonight. Thank you.
On to committee reports. For the policy committee, we did meet, and there is one item under new business, and there's 4 items on the consent agenda that we will be reviewing tonight. And curriculum.
So curriculum, we met January 20th, I believe. And there was a presentation by Gina Eller, and she presented an update to the board regarding the current adult education program in New Britain. She's been here for about a year, and Mr. Richardson had pointed out that she has made a lot of improvements in the adult education department. And right now there are 6 programs. One that impressed me was the adult basic education, which is before the GED. So for students who were not quite at the high school level to get their GED. So they provide basic reading and writing and math support for those students. And they also offer ESL, they also offer citizenship. And right now, adult ed is in 3 different locations. And one of her grand wishes would be for a central location, so they could all be housed in one building. She talked a lot about developing a community for these students where they would feel welcome and they can help in each other's success and work together. She also spoke about the cut from the state level. 64% of the support comes from the state level, 36% from the local. And the state had cut their funding by 13%, which is not great. And but yes, that's I'm just looking at my notes. But overall, it was a very, very positive report that she gave us, and there are a lot of really good things going on in New Britain adult education.
Personnel and finance, transportation and facilities did not meet, so we will be looking at those items on our agenda. And any board reports?
No, go. It's okay. All right. Thank you. I'll try to be fast. Although I have 3 things, and I know we have a packed agenda, so I'll try to be quick. I attended the City of New Britain celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I wanted to offer congratulations to Jeremy Hairston, who was the MC and fabulous. Zymarin Smith, who sang the national anthem, the Hell's Guitar Ensemble, and the New Britain High School African American Club all participated and were outstanding. Diana, Dr. Gasper, Dr. Velasquez attended the State of the Student Conference where they talked about a paradigm shift centering student voices. I thought that was noteworthy. It's run by the School and State Finance Project, and we wondered if they could offer us some individualized feedback by visiting our district. Destiny Mateo, a graduate of Hal's Academy, presented as a part of the keynote speech. So another proud moment for New Britain. And finally, I attended the League of Women Voters legislative brunch on Saturday. I brought with me the CABE 2026 legislative priorities and read the top two verbatim. I know Ira Sanchez was there, Dave DeFranzo was there. They are members of our state delegation who are very supportive. So I know that I was preaching to the choir, but I wanted everybody in the room to hear about our budget plans. One thing that put everything kind of into perspective for me is this language for one of the graphs in our district overview, the proposed budget. It's in the revised one, there's a line of it's flat lines for the last 10 years. And this is what that means. And I think this came out in the meeting with Dr. Gasper too with the delegation. If the district had been given a 1.5% increase a year over the last 10 years, then we would only need a 1.5 increase this year as opposed to the 14% requested. So I'm saying this because there's a lot of pressure on the superintendent, there's a lot of pressure on the board, there's a lot of pressure on the delegation to make this right. We're working hard, but we also have to kind of think about the history of funding in this school district. So I will end with that. Thank you.
Ms. Montana?
So I just wanted to, I did also attend the Martin Luther King event, which I thought was phenomenal. And then it's great for me because I get to see all the people that I come full circle with, also known as everybody that I went to school with here in New Britain. And it was wonderful because there was Colin Osborne, who I went to high school with, and sure enough, and we've always stayed friends. There he was singing, and it was just amazing because we've always been able to, and congratulations to him, he actually just recently earned his master's degree. So it was great seeing him. But what I had an opportunity to do and also share with members of my church, and everybody who knows 10 o'clock St. Mary's on Sundays, I was also able to share with them. So what Dr. Gasper says appears like this. This is what we all received at the budget meeting that we had, that was held. And so I made sure that I encouraged both everyone that I spoke with and everyone that I've spoken with since to make sure that they tune in. You'll also see that one of the items on the packet as well actually addresses the communication and the funding that goes into that communication with our parents, right? Power School, how we actually communicate with our students. It's over $150,000 just to be able to maintain that for 1 year. And I remind our families that we put a lot of effort into it as a district, and to make sure that they are thanking Dr. Gasper when they do. But as far as city events and just communicating with other parents, just making sure that we are all just staying engaged and really listening to them. What are their needs? And I've been able to do that throughout the month. So every time we did have a city event, I was able to just listen and go, okay, we'll make sure that you attend. I'll say goodbye to you. Thank you, thank you.
Does anyone else have anything? Great. We do not have our student representatives today. Do I have a motion to go into executive session with possible public action regarding a legal matter, and coming in would be Mary Ellen Manning, Attorney Murphy, and Dr. Gasper?
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, we are back from executive session. Do I have a motion to go back into executive session with possible public action to discuss Local 51 and Local 818 union contracts with Attorney Jessica Ritter, Ms. Manning, Dr. Sanders, Alfano, and Dr. Gasper.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We are back from executive session. Do I have a motion to ratify the contracts for Local 51 and Local 818?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. On to new business. Item A, approving the minutes from the regular Board of Education meeting on January 12, 2026. Do you have a motion to approve? Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item B, this will only be voted on by the members of that subcommittee. Review and approve the minutes from the Personnel Committee meeting on December 15th, 2025.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And all those who weren't part of it, any abstentions? Aye. Thank you. Same with item C. Review and approve minutes from Finance, Facilities, and Transportation Committee meeting on December 15th, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And any abstentions? Aye. Item D, review the vacancy list and staffing update.
Items B and E are informational only, so they won't require a vote.
Does anyone have any questions on that? Item E, review exit survey data. Any questions? Do you have any questions?
No.
Item F, report of personnel transactions and extracurricular appointments.
Would you request a vote on this one, please?
Do you have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Item G, facilities and IT update.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Gasper, Superintendent. Thank you for the opportunity to provide a facilities update this evening. And tonight I'll be providing a highlight on our transportation services and provide a snapshot on ongoing capital projects along with capital future needs. Bear with me while we get there. Thank you, Asia. We can go on to the first slide. Want to report on transportation services, as I mentioned. Ongoing coordination, we continue to meet with First Student management on a weekly basis in the efforts to improve operational day-to-day operations. As of late, we are now receiving 2 daily reports from First Student, one for the morning, one for the afternoon. And in that report, we receive such things such as fleet issues, manpower issues, any delays that they're facing. We report those out to administrators and principals just so that they are aware of what's going on for planning out their days. On to route improvements. We continue to target routes that are problematic and improve these if possible. As of late, we've improved Gaffney runs 224, 229, and 234, and are currently reviewing Route 228, specifically focusing on the Gaffney tier to see if adjustments could be made to improve that arrival time as well. With all of those, we were experiencing late arrival times in the mornings, and as of late, since we improved 224, 229, 234, we're getting consistent feedback from the building principal that they've improved over the last week. We'll continue to monitor that, and that'll be on the agenda with our first student management team as we meet weekly. An update on the invoices. I know that I reported back out in December that we had yet received any invoices from First Student. It had been actually 4 to 5 months that we haven't received it. We did receive some invoices last week, which we had to contest because the information related to times and mileage, we found some discrepancies. So we've contested those. We've received some of those back, and we will review those with our CFO for accuracy, and then discussions with Dr. Gasper on next steps. And an update on Parent App Tracker. This is an app that I'd like to roll out sooner than later for our parents. This allows you to actually see where the buses are in proximity to pickups and drop-offs. And so we are working on this for a rollout in February. I want to say mid-February. It seems like we're getting some traction now with getting the accurate busing information to upload with all of the vans and buses that they've added to the fleet over the last couple of months. It's been kind of hard to really keep track of the newer ones and the older ones and switching of the buses that's happening throughout the district. So we are hoping to improve that and roll it out for our parents mid-February. Moving on to a snapshot of our ongoing capital projects. Thank you, Asia. I wanted to provide just kind of a snapshot of what we've got going on with our capital projects because we are working on so many at the same time. We're really happy to be doing so. Starting with the homes construction, which we are at 80% approximately complete. Progress continues at that building, and it's looking great. We invite you to visit our social media pages so that you can see our most recent Dr. Gasper's tour of the site. Moving on to cost estimating and budgeting for Smith and Pre-K. We're also very excited about this dual project, a centralized location for Pre-K, which is very exciting for us. And in my years of facilities operations, this will be the first project of such to be overseeing, and it's amazing. We're really proud of that. Moving on to summer 2026, which will be here before we know it, where we'll be focusing on renovating the roof at Pulaski along with the HVAC, and then remaining portions of Slade air conditioning that will need to be completed over the summer as well. And then the planning stages, as we start to meet with stakeholders and education consultants while we work through the feasibility study at Jefferson, that's all happening as we speak right now. The total approved capital investment on all these projects is upwards of $300 million, and we're really proud to oversee these projects. As I mentioned, the project scopes out from beginning to planning to actually action happening over the summer. I'm very proud of the work that we are doing to manage these projects, all while managing the smaller day-to-day projects that come up in our facilities department. And a special thanks to Smelly, who's overseeing those projects. And this will bring me to the capital needs. As we talk about capital projects, I want to kind of give you some information on capital needs that we're looking at right now. As a reminder, in 23-24, we conducted a facilities audit that really helped us gather data in terms of infrastructure improvements or facilities improvements that are needed throughout the district. And in that audit, we identified high priority infrastructure needs, roofs, HVAC, plumbing. Roofs, we're seeing some leaks throughout the district, some real telltale signs that we need to plan for more renovations of roofs. HVAC, we're in that season right now. On a daily basis, we're reacting to things that we need to replace every day. And then in plumbing, we've had some pipes bursting, some cast iron pipes burst with the cold that we're having. It'll switch over come season for air conditioning as well. We're going to continue to see that cost there. And capital improvement planning, we have submitted in the month of January the capital improvement needs to the city for their review. And again, this includes all the capital projects that we've identified through the audit and through historical information that we have in the district and building assessments that we continue to do on a daily basis. Preliminary findings, in the immediate, we have several elevators throughout the district that need to be remodified. As a reminder, last year around this time of year, we remodified one of Pulaski's elevators. That cost us upwards of $300,000 out of our local budget. We simply we cannot afford that. We have an elevator at the high school that we're looking like it's gonna have to be invested in as well in the near future, maybe if not like even next month. So these are priority projects that we wanna share with you so that you know that our needs are at the forefront here in terms of HVAC, roofs, and elevators. And I want to remind you also that DAS provides non-priority projects. We can apply for projects within the first 10 days of each month if they invite us to do so. And life safety is one of those elevators are included in there. So I wanted to be sure that the board was aware of that. And we'll now pass it on to Smet for some updates on some projects that he's been working on. Please. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now some of the funner stuff that our department gets to handle is the renovations. And just want to show you a couple brief pictures. Mr. Salina does provide regular pictures to everybody after we tour the building every week after our construction meeting. But currently the homes project, as Rebecca mentioned, is about 80% complete. And some of the exciting stuff is happening. You're starting to see the classrooms really take shape with their color and cabinets. And in the pictures that were provided to you, you can see the floor tile has been completely installed on the second floor, and some of the first floor sections have also started as well now. In addition, the student bathrooms, which you see in the right picture, are almost complete. Last week and the week before, the stall partitions started to arrive. So we're starting to see those finished touches go into some of the places throughout the building. So it's really exciting. It's going to really start to move even faster as we go along. Next slide, please. Just a quick list of some of the other projects that we're managing day to day. The New Britain High School Auto Shop saw a refresh over the Christmas break. This was a really complicated project. We had to coordinate emptying everything out of the auto shop, coordinate the contractors to come in during a holiday break and shut down, and then get everything back in time for the students to be able to go back in and really start to utilize the room. So the refresh was funded through grant funding through Sandra Sanford's department, and included refresh of the ceiling paint. We painted it black instead of just the open gray that it was. We repainted the walls and all of the fixtures that were in the room, and then we epoxied the floor, and you'll see some pictures from that in just a minute. The next phase of that project to finish off will be replacement of the lights in the room so that it's brighter. But that was an exciting project over the winter break for us to accomplish. In addition, we have our phone project is finally coming to an end. The final phase is the POTS lines, which are our alarm, elevator, and fax lines. AT&T finally found time in their schedule for us, and they've shown up with their equipment, started installing building to building, so we're working with them every week to get that accomplished. Rebecca talked about the Slade and Pulaski roof, so I won't touch on that too much, but those plans are well off. You'll be seeing a presentation very shortly for final signature and approval from you before we submit to the state. We have what's called the project coordination meeting scheduled next week with the architect and the state on those. In the background, we are working on some kitchen appliance updates. You heard from Ms. Murphy earlier, and she's doing a fantastic job auditing our kitchens and the equipment that we have. And some things have come up for immediate need that she has funding available for in the food service account. So we are currently going to replace the steam kettles and steam ovens in the Relt kitchen during April break. The New Britain High School commercial dishwasher, which is now about 10 years old and is at end of its life cycle, is also going to be replaced. And the New Britain High School loading dock freezer, which is just like a temporary storage point for when they truck from point A to point B, is 27 years old. and needs to be replaced. So we are going to replace that with a newer modern box that will be much more efficient. And that'll be happening very soon. Actually, we just ordered the freezer, so we're able to do that while the school is occupied. There's no interruption. And then our PJP swing space, of course, where Holmes is currently temporarily living. We are well underway with the boiler room project there. We're converting that building to natural gas because it had previously been on fuel oil, heating oil, and we had to remove those tanks and converting the building to natural gas now. So the new boilers are installed in the lower boiler room. The burners arrived today. They're being installed, and we'll work on the upper boiler room right after that project, and then the building will be on natural gas. Next slide, please. This is just a quick picture of what the auto shop looked like prior to the refresh. There was furniture and cars in there, but we removed it all. And then next slide is the completed auto shop, which looks like a new dealership. So we are very proud of that project. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, Tina had one.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
So the first part of the presentation. So the audit, the facilities audit was done 23, 24. Right? It was like 23 when they actually went around, touched everything, felt it all up, and came back and said something, right? But now we're already talking about budgets for 26, 27. When do you consider that study to be old?
No, not quite. We were able to address some things with some monies that we had at the time, ESSER monies available, and so we were able to do some things, but again, this was a 5-10 year capital improvement that captured much more. So I don't think it's old. Some of the items are in there, are still unaddressed, and we've added more to those, which we've added to the capital improvement plan that we submitted to the city.
So when you're speaking of needs, and I completely understand that, that's what I'm saying, where to me, the shelf life of it would be 5 years, and we're kind of rubbing close to it. And it's good that they stayed on the list, but just a matter of making sure that we have secured the funding. If right now, a pipe burst, God forbid, let's not say, but just say, something happened, would we have the money to be able to pay for pipes that are burst right now? And then we already know that we are not going to have that money next year? Is that basically what you're saying?
Right now, if we have pipes burst, we've had situations like that occurring within the last 3 weeks, and
Just make sure it happens at the beginning of the month.
and we've had to pay for those out of our local budget, obviously. I'm saying that if we have many more of those, we could have one really good one and wipe my account out, our local budget out. So the trends that we're seeing right now with the HVAC work that we're doing throughout the district is substantial, and it really takes a hit on our budget.
Not just the HVAC, but even a safety concern like me. I don't know, my kid can't ambulate very well. He needs the elevator. And if the elevator at Britain High School is not working, what's the recourse there? And we don't have a backup plan that's going to be addressed at, I don't know, first IEP to allow that we need to walk around a different way in order to be able to get them someplace. But that's my overarching concern, is just making sure that we are aware of what the needs are and that they're addressed, because if you run out of money, then we wouldn't have budgeted enough in the true cost of what we actually need for next year, because we are going to need to make sure that your account stays where you can plan. God forbid there's an emergency, having enough to be able to pay for that.
Yeah.
An elevator or HVAC.
Understood. We always try to budget properly, appropriately every budget season. We allocate certain funding where we think, oh, we're going to go over on this, right? Something can happen, it'll completely take you off of that complete budget. But yeah, we're hopeful that we are going to be getting some drip money soon. Dr. Gasper and I were talking about that this morning. I'm not sure when that's coming, but we already spent that money. We're looking at some HVAC work and some fire panel work that we need to do throughout the district. So,
absolutely. Yeah. No. While we're rebuilding, it's just making sure that we're addressing it, because 27-year-old items are not. That's a full generation worth and a half, and just making sure that we are staying, aware of that is the best thing. So even though the report itself is getting close to outdated, that we are being mindful of that. We have both the student needs, but that's a safety concern as well. That's for me, we see elevator. And HVAC, because we got to leave.
Life safety concerns.
To be back.
Any other questions? Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item H, the enrollment report.
Or the rest of the,
Oh, sorry.
rest of the agenda items,
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Pocock?
That's right. We wanted to do it.
I will be quick though, honestly. A lot of the items I had submitted through that written report normally anyway, so I try and focus on just some particular items. So just giving an update on the direct messaging and calling systems. We've been going through again and putting out training sessions to various elementary schools at this point. Lincoln was the last one that we had done. I do believe Gaffney actually trained themselves. I'm going to double check. I do believe they did a turnkey from attending the Smith session. So I'm going to check in on them. Jefferson is scheduled for our next one. And then I'm going to be working to get into some of the middle schools and finish out the elementary and continue pushing out the information as it pertains to the teachers at those schools. So troubleshooting, of course, has been a part of this all along. We've created troubleshooting documents to try and help the teachers in the sense of working with their parents when their parents report having challenges in getting in, and that's proved to be successful. We've also been feeding suggestions back to the company based upon feedback, of course, that the teachers in their logging in, as well as things I've seen. So we've got several, at this point, they're basically suggestions that with the company, they go into a portal, I put them into a portal, and as they get voted up by school districts and customers around the country, then they start to go into their development on to them. So I'm both voting for suggestions that were similar to the ones we've voiced ourselves, as well as creating ones that weren't there, in hopes that things get developed sooner than later in terms of it. So login statistics I show you in the next one are still growing. We're over 1,000 logins at this point, over 2,000 downloads as we've hit with this. But logging in is the next step with that piece. The app itself is certainly useful without the logging in element as a way to quickly get to items on the website. So our calling system, we've also been doing additional trainings there, cross-training, backup plans to get emergency communications out, getting more departments into the system and comfortable with the system so they can use it as well. For example, trainings with our transportation department, helping review how the system works for them. As well as, again, just building redundancy and backup for weather-related events and things of that sort. So just on the next slide, these stats are not as of today. They were run as of then, so keep that in mind. But as you see, we have over 1,100. We have 1,147 logins on the app at this point, with the largest percentage being our parents, which out of the logins, they're almost 60%. And I'm certainly seeing growth in our teachers every time I perform a training session. Obviously, there's the step for people that hadn't logged in and such, so that seems to be growing. Well, no, it is growing every time as I check on afterwards. So progress is happening. We knew this would be a year-long sort of rollout, and that growth is a good thing in terms of this as it works forward, but we're not expecting 100% everybody immediately either as this progresses and becomes that mechanism for teachers to be able to use for direct messaging. You have any questions about this or any of the other parts?
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Jan.
And now to the enrollment report.
Well, we remain approximately steady from where we were at last year. No need for a vote on that.
The next item, I review board policy 5141.30, school health, immunizations, physical exams, and tests.
So So, Madam President, this did come before the policy committee. Would you care to summarize, or would you prefer I do so?
If you would.
So, at the policy committee, we discussed the rate at which our students are immunized as per state guidelines. And, a little under 2 years ago, we discovered that we had a large number of students who were not in compliance with the guidelines. And at that point, that number was around 1,800 students out of our 10,000, so getting close to 1/5. Thanks to a lot of hard work by many staff members, Ms. Dietz, who's here tonight, members of Mr. Spalding's office, we convened meetings with our partners with the city, put on multiple clinics, lots of communication efforts. That number is now down in the 700 range. But still, we have 700 of our students who are not compliant. There's two main purposes of this policy update. Number one is to come into alignment with some legal changes that were not updated in our policy. So that being, for example, we know it's controversial for some people, but the removal of the religious exemption. That is not a local decision, that's a state level statute. This is just updating the law with that and other such things. The critical question for the board and why this is before you with the regular agenda rather than consent agenda is, it says, the existing policy says that the superintendent may exclude students for non-compliance. It is somewhat common in other school districts that that would read shall. So the question before the board is, do you want to direct the student via a policy, the superintendent via a policy change to exclude students who are not compliant with expectations or guidelines from the state around immunizations and physicals? If the board chooses to do so, obviously we would advertise and communicate this thoroughly. And if you chose to move forward, I would suggest that the effective date is the start of the coming school year. So nothing that we would exclude students from school immediately. Again, it is not legally required that you make that particular change in the policy, but it is something that obviously would be an impetus to get more families to be in compliance. Right, we have a good variety of school-based health clinics where people can access these services for free, as well as city and other their private medical providers should they wish. So that's really the question before the board, the most pressing question before the board regarding this policy revision.
Are there plans for more clinics, like district-wide or? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You know, when my kids went to school, I remember they had to do it by ninth grade at the high school. If you didn't, there was, I don't know, around October, November, they sent out the list and the kids would have to stay home until they had them. So I didn't know that anything had changed with that, so.
I do have a question for parents that still refuse to because of religious stances. So the recourse will be they exclude it until they adhere to that?
If you made this change, yes. As I said, that's been a decision at the state. And again, your current policy says the superintendent may exclude.
Dr. Gasper, I noticed in your presentation you say the superintendent may or shall, but the language says the board shall. So I believe that we are voting on the board shall. So the burden, the onus is on the board. But when you say the superintendent, I understand that is meaning you are the enforcer of the
I'm your
policy.
chief executive officer, yes.
Yes, okay.
John? I'm looking at this as a public health communication in our community. We also have to recognize our medically challenged, compromised children in our community. So when I used to do this when I was in HRA, Early Child Care Program. I was their health manager. And I always was confronted with the religious exemption. And what I saw was, when I told the parents, if a child that you had in that classroom that we identified had the flu, your child would have to be excluded for at least 7 days until the incubation period. So that's how I see this issue. It's a public health safety issue. It's not a personal thing. It's a community awareness.
Any other questions or comments?
Can I just say, so, in the spirit of transparency, my children were actually, unfortunately not treated very well by the staff at the centers in the school, and required emergency surgery when I actually took custody of them. So, but that aside, mine are actually medically complex.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to have the opportunity to be able to show why it would kill Chris quicker to have certain vaccinations if that was the case.
Well, children who are medically.
No, but if our parents don't know, that they need to make sure that they provide that information, not just saying, listen, for religious reasons, but really, because my kid is medically complex, and those systems don't always talk. You know what I mean? Because, I don't know, maybe some parents don't bring all the information at all, like me, where they bring the whole maleta full of all the paperwork and everything else, just to make sure that they have everything that they need in forward. I'd like for them to have the opportunity to just be able to. I'm not, I hear you, I hear everyone else.
Can there be more communication with families regarding, like, if their children are medically compromised for vaccinations and what
Absolutely. So,
documentation do
as I
we
said,
need?
Ms. Dietz is here, and we know that she can work very closely with Ms. Langer and make sure that this policy in the admin procedure is put into plain language and multiple languages so that people can understand. You know, if there is a need for an exemption, how is that allowed by state statute and by policy?
But we're not talking about something new. This is something that's been in place for quite some time. And if our families now in, 2026 haven't made sure that they've communicated that, then all this time we haven't made sure that they understood that. We're reaching them at every single PPT. That should be a part of what we're covering too. I'm saying you're right there front and center. I've never even met Mrs. Dietz. I'm sure she's a lovely lady. My kids are medically complex and all in schools. All right. Thank you.
I do think that's a reason to pass this tonight or sooner rather than later, so we can get the word out, we can continue to educate families.
I don't think we should start with a policy change, but just communicate with our families. I mean, I hear you. I appreciate it.
Well, that's all families are given the same information when you enroll your child, right? They tell you all the paperwork that has to be in place, so.
So I'd say our communication has been extensive. That's how we've gone
That's how
from
we
1,800
found out
to
about it.
700.
Yeah. So we're willing to notify the family stuff. I think that we have to think about everybody, and we need to make sure everybody can be healthy when they're in school, as healthy as they can be. There's enough germs going around, so they need some immunity for some of that stuff. Because, and even with the teachers, they end up catching a lot of the things that go around too, and I'm sure they can pass on things too. So I think it's very important that we do that.
And just to clarify, these are things like the old school and measles, mumps, rubella, all that, polio, that kind of.
As spelled out here, yep.
This is not.
Preschool is required to have the
Okay.
state
Yeah.
regulation, yeah.
But we're not adding nothing other than that.
It should be common on
Right.
No, we're not going above and beyond the state guidelines.
Okay.
I don't want to shortchange discussion. I'm willing to move this. People think we're ready to vote.
So that's a motion.
I will move the policy statement with the new language, the board shall deny entrance.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Next item, J, approved memorandum of understanding between CSDNB and Local 871, New Britain Federation of Teachers, regarding Appendix A2, other programs to add re-engagement staff as a category.
So a quick introduction to this item and the following item. Both of these items are already work that we budget for. This is seeking to formalize really the re-engagement program, which is, informal isn't the correct word, but it's really run kind of on a as-needed basis by Mr. Miramont at Brookside Academy. Mr. Spalding came to me with this proposal. We believe that by making these modifications and formalizing them this way, and again, we don't believe it's substantially any more money, can actually present a substantial, savings to the district for students who are, Mr. Spalding, are we looking at mostly 18 to 22-year-old students for the re-engagement memorandum?
High schools.
High school and transition?
Transition, but mostly high schools.
Thank you. So these are students who are currently outplaced. Many of these students actually do not have a very strong attendance record at their outplacement. So we believe we can provide services that are just as good in-house and obviously at a substantial savings to the board. So the purpose of this MOU and the following MOU is really just codifying existing practice.
Can we vote on both of them together?
You may.
Do I have a motion to approve items J and K?
Motion.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
I like that efficiency, Madam President.
Item L, new position request, Lake Club Advisor, Game Club.
No further statement here needed. It's as presented.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item M, accept donation from CHDI, Connect to strengthen integration between school and community-based behavioral health systems for Gaffney and Lincoln Elementary. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item N, accept donation from BJ's Charitable Foundation to support students' essential needs in the amount of $5,000.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item O, approve contract between CSDNB and Integrated Wellness Group to provide early childhood behavioral supports in the amount of $25,350, and the funding source is a grant.
Motion to accept.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item P, approve purchase order between CSDNB and Dell Technologies for laptops with storage cards for New Britain High School in the amount of $20,914, and the funding source is also a grant.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item Q, approve purchase order and bid waiver between CSDNB and Toolkit Technologies for automotive modernization from electric motor trainers for New Britain High School in the amount of $12,985.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item R, approve purchase order between CSDNB and Airtemp for emergency heating repair at Colorado Magnet School in the amount of $19,812.18.
I would just make one comment here, Madam President. The board policy does permit emergency approvals by the superintendent in these cases, as long as it does come before you after the fact. So obviously a heating repair of the burst pipe that we heard about earlier, this is just such a case where the superintendent made an emergency approval of a PO pending future board action.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item S, approved bid award between CSDNB and Monmouth Solutions, Inc. for food service walk-behind forklift for facilities in the amount of $13,399.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item T, approved purchase order between CSDNB and Scholastic Inc. for SBA and Tier 1 instructional needs for Pulaski Middle School in the amount of $30,893.42.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item U, approved purchase order between CSDNB and LinkedIn Corporation for 3-year renewal of LinkedIn Learning district-wide in the amount of $12,408.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item V, approved purchase order between CSDNB and Power School for renewal of eFinance Plus district-wide in the amount of $156,914.96.
Say a lot of good people in that.
Aye.
60,000 for us to see our kids.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And item W, accept the financial report for December 31st, 2025.
Ms. Alfano.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This presentation provides an overview of the district expenditures through the month of December 2025. This slide provides an overview of the expenditure summary by category for the month of December. The detailed information can be found in the packet in the financial report. Other categories in the upcoming slides, I'll review several accounts that we are monitoring more closely and that may require budget transfers, including special education tuition. So, you can go to the next slide.
Ms. Alfano, would you just
Yes.
care to clarify the salaries account currently shows 102% slightly overdrawn?
Correct. So I was going to mention that now in this slide when I'm discussing salary and benefits. So most of our major grants have now been approved. So we've received funding and we're starting to draw those down. And we've also started the process of posting the entries to move the expenditures from the grant funds into the local. So those reimbursements are happening now. So in our next report, you'll see a difference. That negative will no longer be there, and we'll actually see a positive balance in those accounts. Okay. So we can go to the next slide. So this slide represents the expenditure summary for purchase services category under Object Code Series 300. Within the purchase services line, 53340, which covers other professional technical services. It's showing higher activity at this time. We do expect a reimbursement. We're still waiting for that for the capital improvements project for the athletic, for the weight room. Once that is received by the Board of Ed, we will post that, and that should help offset a portion of these expenditures. But this account is trending over budget, and we do expect that by year end we will require a budget transfer to cover those expenditures. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Okay. So this slide represents the special education tuition expenditures under the Object Code Series 500. The encumbrances for the month of December are at approximately $18.3 million. Again, those represent projections through the end of the year. They're not actual expenditures yet at this time. So that may fluctuate if a student should leave the district or no longer require that outplacement or the services, then that PO would be then closed and those funds would be released back into the account.
We are expecting several revenue offsets, including the $3.6 million special revenue from the city, as well as the excess cost grant. Despite the offsets, we are still trending at approximately 5.5 to 6.5 over budget in these line items. Okay, we are closely monitoring these accounts. We do meet monthly, we review them, and we go over all of the purchase orders, and we continue to monitor the trends and just watch those accounts closely. Next slide. Okay. And we can go on to the next. Yeah, those are the comments now. Okay, so this slide represents the expenditure summary for supplies under Object Code Series 600. We are, again, anticipating that $175,000 from the capital improvement projects. And so a portion will also reimburse this account here. It is still trending slightly over, but we are monitoring, and we'll see if it does require a budget transfer by year end. Next slide. So this slide is budget transfers, so we got to go back one more. Okay, I'm not sure you can see that on there, but we do have a pending budget transfer that requires board approval. That is included in the packet as well.
So that'll be for board action tonight.
It does, yes. So this slide here, this packet is from January 26th. All the approvals have been received at this time. So Title I, Title II, all of our major grant applications have been approved since that date. So as I said previously, we are in the process now of drawing down those funds and posting those entries in the system. Okay. So we can go to excess cost grant. So I wanted to provide a more in-depth explanation of the excess cost grant since it was discussed during the superintendent's budget presentation and during our community forum. There were some community members that had asked questions about the excess cost grant. So I thought it would be helpful to give some background and some additional information as to how it works and what the grant supports, and then how it impacts our special education budget. So what is the excess cost grant? The excess cost grant, also called excess cost reimbursement, is a Connecticut state grant. It helps local school districts pay for the unusually high costs of providing special education services to certain students. Special education is funded mostly by the local district and our local budget. When an individual student's special education costs become exceptionally high in a given year, the district may qualify for partial reimbursement from the state. The reimbursement is meant to reduce the financial burden on districts for high-cost special education and placements and services. Okay, we can go to the next slide. How excess cost eligibility is determined. So the student must be receiving special education and related services under an IEP. The district must incur eligible special education costs for that individual student, instruction, services, and or outplacement costs. The student becomes eligible once their annual special education costs exceed the state-defined basic contribution threshold based on the district's prior year per pupil spending. Only costs above the threshold are considered excess cost and may qualify for state reimbursement. Go to the next slide. How the excess cost grant threshold and rate is calculated. So Connecticut sets the excess cost eligibility threshold using the district's prior year net current expenditure per pupil, NCEP. Okay, so the NCEP is multiplied by the state factor of 4.5. The district is responsible for costs up to that threshold for each eligible student. Once districts submit their excess cost claims, the state totals eligible costs statewide and applies the year's available state appropriation. The reimbursement rate is then determined based on available funding compared to total eligible excess cost claims. Districts are reimbursed for only a portion of eligible costs above the threshold, and it can be prorated if statewide claims exceed the funding. We can
If
go
I
to the
may,
next-
Ms. Alfano.
Yes,
That's not how it's supposed to be. That's how it ends up working. I'm not
Correct.
correcting you, I'm saying
sure.
there's a difference here between what is proposed in legislation, or what is laid out in legislation,
Right.
which is anything above the 4.5% will be reimbursed at the percentages you're about to tell us about.
Correct.
You're laying out how it actually works.
Correct.
So in a moment, I'm going to ask you how much money that costs us.
Correct.
The difference between the 91 and the 70-something%.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
So, excess cost statutory rate tiers. So, beginning with fiscal year 2023 and after, if statewide eligible claims exceed the amount appropriated, reimbursement is paid on the town's wealth ranking. So that's the ANGLIC, or the Adjusted Equalized Net Grand List per capita. So lowest wealth
My
districts.
favorite acronym.
That's right. So lowest wealth districts such as New Britain, we're ranked between the 115 and 169. So we should be reimbursed at the 91% rate, okay, of eligible costs. So then the middle wealth districts are at 88%, and then the highest wealth districts are at 85%. So for fiscal year 26, our rate is currently, so it's a preliminary reimbursement rate, and it's 72.7%. So rather than that 91%, right now, we're at the 72.7%. Okay. So we can go to the next slide. So here I provided,
And I'm sorry, Ms. Love.
Yes.
I would just say, that comes to be because rather than fulfilling the obligation, what ends up happening at the legislature, and we all understand that we have legislators that are working hard for us. Our delegation is working hard for us. But in essence, what happens at the state level, a finite dollar amount gets budgeted for excess cost. And then they must take that finite amount and then divide it up by all of the claims.
so here on this
I'm
slide.
sorry for interrupting you so much. You know
That's
this
okay.
makes me mad. This whole topic.
Okay, it's the topic, it's the topic, and that's why I wanted to provide more information, just so that it simplified that. So the excess cost grant example calculation. So in this example, I assume that the cost of a student is $100,000, and our NCEP number is 17,519. So our threshold cost is that 17,519 times that 4.5 state factor. So that gives us a total of $78,836. So that is what the district must spend before the excess cost grant, or I'm sorry, that's what the district cost is. Anything above that is the amount that state reimbursement rate gets applied to. So again, so if we have a student that's $100,000, we are our factor is 78,836. That remaining balance is, I'm just going to round, $21,000. So we apply that 72.7% to that $21,000, and our reimbursement is $15,387. So rather than receiving the full $21,000, we receive $15,000. Okay, so that's
Or
just an
rather
example.
than receiving 91%.
Right, correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So rather than receiving that 91%, we receive the 72.7%.
And I think this is really well laid out, really well explained by Ms. Alfano, but
Yeah.
she's chosen a charitable number at $100,000. It's easy to imagine, because we have many outplacements that are $250,000. So just to do the math in my head, let's call the first 80,000 is our responsibility. So what that means is 170,000 of that is reimbursable. Of the 170,000, we should get 91% back. But the projection is we'll get 72% back. Right? And again, we know that building the state budget is very difficult for our legislators. It's very stressful for people like Ms. Alfano and me. Right now, we're engaged with you as a board trying to plan a budget that ends 18 months from now, having really no idea how much money would be coming back on a really substantial expense to the district. So it doesn't look like much when Ms. Alfano uses 100,000. I think it's a perfect example. Of course, it's mathematically accurate, but most of we did a quick calculation. Our average outplacement is $189,000 total cost. So again, I've said this a lot, that I'm not putting a dollar sign on a child. These children need these services and they should have these services. But the state should be looking at the mode or the means by which this is funded. That these costs fall on our school district and every other school district in this unpredictable way. It's just not fair to the local school districts. So I'm hopeful that there might be some relief in the future. I don't know of anything particularly on the horizon, but the current model is just not sustainable for really any school district.
So then if you're saying that, say the estimated cost, just to make it easier, is 200,000 per child. We are getting back, so if we doubled that, say, we are getting back 30,000. I'm just using the number here, the 15.
So I'll do, help me with the math, Ms. O'Connor. So if the total cost of an outplacement is 200,000, I'm going to round this 78,000 to 80.
Right.
So we're responsible no matter what for the first $80,000 of cost, which means the reimbursable amount is now 120. So we should get 91% of that. So
say 100.
That should be around 100, just over 100,000.
But we're getting 75, say,
But
or 70.
We're getting 72% of that. So
now each outplaced child, they're getting the 17 that all the other kids get, plus we're adding that on top of it. Like that's what we're responsible for.
yes, so when a child is outplaced, right, I'm going to try not to get on too high of a soapbox here. But
I'm just saying it's a big chunk of money for a lot of kids.
It is, and again,
And as you said, they deserve it. That's not the issue.
Absolutely, it's not about the quality of service, and it's not about whether or not they should have the service. It's the state laws and the funding streams around this were designed when the statewide rate was about 10% of the kids, 10 to 11%. And when outplacements were 50,000, not $250,000. So the legislation has not, and the funding streams have not kept pace with the change in need. And as we said when I gave my budget presentation, all the lines regarding this are going up. So the number of kids, and then the level of service that each child needs, that's increasing in general. And it's important to remember that many of these, not all, many of these entities, these schools, bill a la carte. So if a student didn't need BCBA services when they got there, but now they do, right? They bill a la carte by the service or by the hour for the service. So number of kids going up, severity of need for each of those kids going up, and many of these providers have informed us that their rates are going to hike by 10% next year. More kids with more need with more dollars per service, it's just simply not sustainable for such a district like ours that has such a low ability to pay based on the ANGLIC. And more and more districts are going to find themselves in our position of, right, part of my budget book, I believe it was 58 million. Out of the $128 million local budget, 58 million is assigned to special ed in some way, whether it be staff services or outplacements. So that's about 24% of our kids for other way. 45% of our budget, almost half, serves 24% of our kids. And again, just to repeat, they should have these services, but we need help from the State Department of Education to propose meaningful, and I use the word courageous legislation to the legislators for them to consider that ensures quality of service while providing some type of, firstly, fiscal predictability. The fact that neither, as your superintendent and the CFO, as the fact that neither of us can predict exactly where this lands within $1 million. We can't predict this within $1 million next year, right? We're always off by tens of thousands, right? In a $200 million budget, being off by 10,000, 50,000 up or down, that happens. Pipes burst, things like that. But the fact that we can't give a really solid projection to you within millions, and it's not for lack of trying, and it's not for lack of skill,
Right.
That's what's broken about the system.
And is this, and I don't know if this is the place to, is this where, you had mentioned earlier that there's the website and the people advocating to the state?
This is certainly one of them. Actually, I presented the budget to staff this afternoon, and there was one staff member there who asked, should we be advocating about excess cost? I paused because it's such a complex topic, and the realities and practicalities of the legislature right now, especially in a short session. I think this is a multi-year thing to end up with right, fixing excess cost. What could be done to help us with special education costs would be two things that are, I would say, easier to understand, easier to advocate for. Number one is that foundation amount for ECS that hasn't been changed since 2013. Right? Simply if that got adjusted for 13 years of inflation, that would mean a substantial help to us and every other school district. The other thing, and this actually made it as far as committee last year, but did not get voted into legislation, is a multiplier for students with special needs. So part of the ECS formula, so we have 10,000, I forget what's in here, 10,036 kids. If we had, so those are 10,036 children, but in order to decide how much money we get from the state, there's a multiplier. So Ms. Alfano, help me. I think for a child in poverty, is it 1.2?
So, sorry.
We have two CFOs over there, and they're both scrunching their face. 1.3? So in other words, a child in poverty doesn't count as 1.0, they count as 1.3. I believe a multilingual learner is 1.25 or 1.2. So in other words, when there's evidence, right, undeniable evidence that some students need additional supports, whether that, right, but there is no multiplier for special ed.
Really?
Exactly.
That seems crazy.
Right. So that made it through committee last year, but it didn't make it onto the floor for a vote. So I think those would be two of the, I think, easiest to express ways to advocate for this around special ed. Right? Change the foundation, because that impacts every single district. And it just says, hey, look, it doesn't cost what it cost us in 2013. But then a multiplier for students with special needs. Because in one way or another, whether it's in the example I say, whether Tony has an IEP, and the only thing he needs is to share a para with 3 other kids in math class, that's kind of a low level of service.
Right.
All the way up to an outplacement. In a small way or a large way, a student with special needs gets additional services, because that's the whole point. To not have any kind of multiplier when there is a multiplier for poverty and there is a multiplier for multilingual.
It doesn't make any sense.
Correct, and I bring that up because I think that's something you could put in a 2-paragraph letter.
Right.
Revising the excess cost is more like a
Take time.
dissertation. Maybe that's your next dissertation, Dr. Velasquez.
Just what you signed up
Mr.
for.
Spalding, dissertation in your future, perhaps?
Well, I don't want to prolong it, but to your point, the parents that have asked me about the budget and my stance, why I took that stance, I've explained to them that we have to reach out to the state level because we are hurting. Right now, Bridgeport is asking for a $44 million budget. Like, it's not only us, but the more parents that are reaching out to the legislators, like through the website that you guys provide the letters, that's a perfect way to like get attention, more attention, right? I would encourage anybody that comes up to you to reach out to them. Use those examples. I write to them a lot, and like thank you for that, and your team for that letter as well. I used it too. I wrote my own letter out, put my numbers, the budget that Dr. Gasper worked on, and I said we need more. And I mean, that's what we should be doing, educating our parents to reach out, definitely.
These do seem to be legislative priorities for the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education. So all of us, maybe, we could save the date. I'm just reading off my little pamphlet. Wednesday, March 11 is Cave Day on the Hill. So it seems like that's an action day. We could show up with our, I don't know, is it like, did we bring our little poster boards or just like testify on the Hill? Like it seems like these two things are important.
It's typically a pretty good day, and typically the legislators make time to step out of session, step out of their offices and come down to kind of the breakout sessions. So I've gone to Day on the Hill 2 or 3 times when I can, and it's typically a well-spent day. Sorry for hijacking your report, Ms. Alcon. You know it's a tough topic for me to keep quiet on.
Okay. So on this slide, I provided just a quick snapshot of the budget timeline and the dates that we'll be meeting with the city. So I know that when I created this presentation, it was still tentative, but it has since then been confirmed. So we'll be meeting or presenting to the Board of Finance and Taxation on February 5th. And then there are some other dates, and we haven't received our date to meet with the Common Council yet. And then I just put in bold another TBD, which would be when the board adopts their final 26-27 budget. So I just thought that would be helpful to look at that, to have those dates. And then our last slide is, again, what's ahead. So the Board of Education budget meetings with the city's Board of Finance and Taxation, as well as the Common Council. And then we should be receiving our first excess cost grant sometime at the end of the month. And that concludes the financial report.
And the report includes the requested transfers, yes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Requested to adopt the report, please.
Do I have a motion to accept the financial report?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. On to the consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone wants to remove? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Second, I'm sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Do I have any other business? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank you, everyone.